Anybody who's spent a little bit of time in Microsoft Flight Sim trying to load the FMS in an A320, it can be a little daunting. So let's work through it together in this video. First, you want to start on the initialization page. You're initializing the FMS. You're telling the airplane where you're coming from and where you're going to. So this flight, we're going to be going from Portland, or PDX, to Seattle, or SEA. So we're going to type that, and we're going to drop it on our from to. The airplane then may bring you this page, asking you what company route you want to do. Next one, we're going to put in our flight number. This is important. It is what's going to be transmitted on your ADS-B signal, so make sure it is correct. And we're going to drop that on flight number. The next thing we're going to do is put in cost index. Cost index is telling the airplane what is more important, speed or fuel economy. If I put 0 in this, it will fly at LD max the entire way. If I put 999 in it, it will fly at VMO or MMO or whatever is appropriate the entire way. And then cruise altitude, that one's pretty straightforward. You're just telling the airplane how high you're climbing so that it can plan its vertical route. Once we're done with that page, we are then going to go to our flight plan page. So that is FPLN. Now, how do we load a flight plan in the Airbus? Well, you're going to start by selecting your departure. So we're going to select PDX as our departure, and we're going to select the departure key. Now we're going to tell the airplane what runway we intend on leaving from. So we selected the 10 right runway, and then we're going to select our departure procedure. We're going to be doing the Portland to departure, so we're going to push until we find the Portland to departure and select it. And now you can see up in the top, that entire little form is filled out. So we've got the runway 10 right, the Portland 2, and then no transition. We're going to hit insert, and you can see that inserted it into my flight plan. Then we're going to select our airport of intended arrival, which is Seattle. Then we're going to select arrivals, and we're going to select what runway we want to land on. Then we're going to find what arrival we want to do. But the other student during this actually asked, well, what if I don't know what runway I think I'm going to land on? I'm just going to use these keys right here to push through so that I don't select a runway. I don't really recommend it. I say select whatever runway you think would be most appropriate. It just makes it a little easier. It makes sure it loads the whole arrival if you need the whole arrival. Then we're going to select our OLM to arrival with the battleground transition. Now, for us to look through the rest of our flight plan, we're going to go flight plan, and it's going to take us right back to the top. And what we can see is we have a discontinuity right here. This discontinuity is telling me that my flight plan is disconnected. There's not a straight route from Portland to Seattle. The reason there's a discontinuity is because the Portland to departure is just radar vectors. Next page that we're going to go to is actually going to be RadNav. What we're checking in here is that we haven't taken control of the radios from the airplane. The airplane will control all of your nav radios. So if we see something bold like this, we have taken control of that radio away from the airplane. So we're just going to put clear in our scratch pad and then clear out that bold item so that the aircraft can set whatever radios it needs to set. Like you can see right there, it's switched from the Seattle VOR to the battleground VOR. Next thing we're going to do is go to initialization again, and then we're going to hit that little right arrow key, and that's going to take us to our fuel and weight and balance initialization. Here we're going to tell the airplane what our zero fuel weight is, which is 125,000 pounds, and we're going to tell it what our zero fuel weight CG is, which is 29.5. This would be calculated either in a dispatch calculator, or your dispatcher would give you this information. If you're on Microsoft Flight Sim, you might get this information from the little iPad that sits to the left or right of your position in Microsoft Flight Sim. Then we're going to tell the airplane it's going to take us 500 pounds to taxi, and we're also going to tell it we want 5% route reserve. So for my route, I want you to add 5% to my fuel burn just so that I have a little bit of wiggle room. Then we're going to hit fuel planning. What this does is it tells the airplane, based on the information I have given you, based on the route I have given you, how much gas do I need? This one says I need 7,200 pounds, and if you have 7,200 pounds on board, hit block confirm, but we actually have 15.9 or 15,900 pounds on board. So we're going to type that as 15.9 and drop it on block. Now the airplane's going to recalculate its new fuel burn with the new weight. So I don't know if you noticed it, our trip fuel went up. because now we are heavier. But this one's now also telling us, down in the bottom right, we have 8,400 pounds extra, and that's going to be an hour and 38 minutes. Now, we're going to input our V speeds. V1, that is our decision speed. That is the speed is which, if we reach this, we are going no matter what happens. VR, that's just the rotate speed. That's where we start pulling back on the stick to get the nose up. And then V2 is your minimum safe single engine flying speed. It's the speed that you're going to aim for on climb out on the way out if you were to lose an engine on the runway. Then we're going to put our flaps and trimmable horizontal stabilizer setting in. Again, this would either come from your dispatcher, a dispatch calculator, or the little iPad to the left or right of your station in Microsoft Flight Sim. The next thing we're going to put in is flex temp. A lot of people struggle with what flex temp is when they first start getting to the airlines or when they first start getting into bigger jets. What flex temp is its D rate. What we're going to do is we're going to convince the airplane that it is hotter outside than it actually is. We're going to tell the airplane it's 49 degrees Celsius outside, so give me the thrust and fuel as if it's 49 degrees Celsius outside, because when it's hotter, air is less dense. If air is less dense, I need less fuel. If I get less fuel, I get less thrust. So why do I do this? Well, if I am in a half-empty Airbus and I have a 12,000 foot runway, do I need 48,000 pounds of thrust? Of course I don't need 48,000 pounds of thrust. I have plenty of excess thrust at that point. So let's burn less gas, pollute the environment a little less, and put less wear and tear on the engine. So that's why we do flex temp. There are times where we wouldn't do flex temp, like a contaminated runway or a really short runway, or, there's a number of reasons. You'll learn about that specifically at your carrier. If you're doing this in Microsoft Flight Sim, don't even bother with flex temp. Just full toga every takeoff. This page is telling us, do we have the required navigational performance for the route that we've put in? If you look at the bottom left, we need 1 mile. The bottom right, our estimated navigational performance is 0.01 nautical mile. That's awesome. That's all we need. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to copy the active flight plan. In the event that we make a mistake on our flight plan, we have something to call back to.